Good morning. This is the Successful Funding Show. I'm Carl Dakin, the Capital Coach. For those of you who are not familiar with this show, it's all about funding. Now, normally we talk about small businesses, we talk about communities, but any type of funding, charitable funding, community project funding, getting money in the door from someone else is what this show is all about. And this show complements my instant funding newsletter that's published on LinkedIn Monday through Friday, and my AI avatar, the Capital Coach, which is available on my website at dakincapital.com, and my other efforts to share what I have learned over 45 years of working with all kinds of funding projects so that all of you may learn a little more and find yourself in a better position to get some funding. With me this morning as my guest is Rick Janson. Rick has a number of AI products, and we're going to dive down into that statement a little bit here. And we're going to talk about funding of AI businesses. And in this case, as all of you may be aware, AI is a big thing. And AI has the attention of the capital industry. And one would think that that's a good thing. But as Rick and I will talk about, there are several reasons why raising funding for an AI business today actually may be harder, more challenging, and more difficult to complete because it's a little crazy out there. So with that, Rick, please introduce yourself, and we'll jump into this topic.
Hi, Carl. Thanks so much for having me on. And yeah, experiencing the challenge of fundraising and looking forward to discussing that with you today. My professional background right now, currently, I have two AI startup companies. One is AI generated voice, and one is an AI generated avatar called Virtual Twins. How I got into this is kind of a crazy little story. I was an attorney with an MBA in marketing, spent 20 years plus as a realtor. And when I saw AI coming on kind of full force back in November 2022, jumped into the wild, wild west with both feet, jumped right into the deep end, took every course I could, started learning from everybody I could, and realized I was ahead of other people. So I started coaching it. First to realtors, then to small to mid-sized businesses, because realtors run small and mid-sized businesses. So as I was going through tools and uncovering tools and sharing tools with realtors and small businesses, I started seeing holes in the market. And I started seeing places, holes that we could fill. And one of them was the Virtual Twin, or the AI avatar company, to personalize response via video at scale. And so we started down that rabbit hole. It's been a fun journey, but all of these journeys require funding.
Yeah. So this gets us immediately into some of the issues of raising funding. Now, for the audience, you might think that I'm an older person just by looking at me, and you'd be right. Because I've been around a long time. And since I've been around a long time and involved with funding of hundreds of different businesses over 4.5 decades, I've seen more than one technology wave blow through the capital industry and all the impact that can have. And it creates a number of additional challenges or supersizes some of the challenges of raising funding, because when everybody has started their own AI business, then there are more people out there looking for funding. And automatically you have to start saying, well, how do I make myself visible in this larger crowd of competitors? This is not like playing a football game where there's only, a couple dozen people in the field. This is like the Boston Marathon, where there might be 40,000 people out there all competing in a single race. And you're saying, well, how do I stand out in a crowd of competitors on what I do? So I'm going to throw that out as a first challenge for Rick to explain how he's standing out. And then we'll go through 3 or 4 more of these challenges that we may be escalating going up the ladder as we move forward. But before Rick answers the questions, one of the things about this program that I really like this format is the audience. We have interactive capability with people in the audience get to drop in the live commentary. And with us this morning, we have Zach Dane. Zach is working on some models for real estate in fractional ownership and creating a smoother, more efficient cradle to grave capability for people to get into and out of real estate investments in small dollar amounts, which provides extra capital for those involved in real estate, but also it gives more opportunities to the average person on the street to get a hand in and invest in real estate without having to have lots of money. So good morning, Zach. We also have with us Don Cohen, my mentor on using LinkedIn and LinkedIn Live. And I'm on Don's shows once a week talking about business development and funding. And I'll be on his show tomorrow at 9 a.m. Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Eastern. And then we have Omar. And quite frankly, I'm not sure where Omar is in the world. He reminds me, he did a program recently on his world tour, and it was like, where's Waldo? It seemed like every day he was in a different city having a great time. So Omar, glad to have you in the audience this morning, and we'll jump in more as you all ask questions or make comments about today's program. So back to the first hard question on the table with running 2 AI businesses. And I guess if everyone on the planet started 2 businesses, we'd have 14 billion AI businesses, which would be bigger than the Boston Marathon. How do you see yourself standing out from this massive crowd, this massive noise that's taking place on the internet?
There are 2 approaches we've been taking, and largely right now, massaging personal relationships and professional relationships to get in front of people. Once you're in front of people, you can distinguish yourself with features, but facts tell and stories sell. So while we can stand out with unique features, and we do have those, that still isn't enough to move the needle, because you have to translate how those features actually solve the problem of the person you're talking to. So you can have the most feature-heavy widget on the planet and be beaten by somebody with one feature because they connected better the solution and actually solve the problem or move the needle for the person in front of them.
Yeah, so I want to come back to that as a second issue and get back to the first issue. So as you pointed out, you are getting into presentations of your product by working through people you know. Can you expand a little bit about how you're leveraging your existing relationships to create these new relationships?
One of the ways is another business I have is I've been writing a book. So having been in real estate for 20 plus years, I decided that there's so many connections I have that a new realtor doesn't have. And I know people at the top of companies, people at the top of teams, coaches, and you look at the failure rate in real estate, it's 85% in the first 2 years. 85% of people get a license fail in the first 2 years. Sorry about that. And so I started saying, well, what if we could help solve that problem? So we're writing a book, and my phone is on mute. It's still cut through. I apologize. We're writing a book called Real Estate Mastery, Your First 90 Days as an Agent, everything they didn't teach in real estate school. And so I started interviewing 35 top coaches, top producers, company owners to be in this book, leveraging AI to help write the book as well. But coming to answer your question, one of the ways that I'm leveraging that then is people, when we have the 5 minutes before or the 5 minutes after the interview, I say, what else are you involved in? What's making you excited about 2025? They tell me law of reciprocity. Then they ask me, what's making you, Rick, excited about 2025? I say, oh, you may not know this, but I'm also running 2 AI companies. And we start getting into that. A couple of them have said, you are right on the money with this. What a great invention. I said, well, speaking of money, we're seeking investors right now. So the conversation kind of flows, and we have 3 enterprise level clients on deck right now in conversations, of course, complicated by the holidays. But they're like, hey, you're actually solving a real problem. I could see how I could apply this in my business. They said, well, if you can't apply this in your business, do you think other businesses can? And we are taking investors.
Okay, so now we've got a whole bunch of additional questions that could follow that, but I want to dive in on this one a little bit more. So here you are, an experienced, long-time real estate agent. You started 2 AI businesses. And so by definition, even though you've been around a long time in real estate, you're still a rookie in the AI industry. And when you tell people that you are working with AI, do they challenge your background or lack of background in working with AI, or how do you get across a sense of capability of having truly created a solution here using AI?
No one has challenged my background. And that I was kind of surprised by that, but also not, because AI is so fresh, nobody has a background in it. Unless you're a coder or a developer. And I've been talking to people who are like, yeah, I'm OG AI. I've been in the field since '96. I'm like, well, good for you. But as far as our product, I've been coaching it for 2 years because ChatGPT has been around for about 2 years publicly, right? So, and then I say, well, I've got some credentials. I've spoken on stage. I'm a strategic coach for top 1% luxury realtors in the world. I built my chops up over time, by staying ahead of other people and by providing massive value as an AI coach. So when they see that and they say, okay, well, you're bringing credibility as a coach, you're bringing credibility as a realtor, and you're solving a problem for realtors with AI, they really just start looking at the problem that I'm solving. And they haven't questioned my background at all. And if they do, as far as the technology is concerned, they say, well, I'm hiring out all the technology development, fortunately, and I'm partnering with some of the smartest people I've ever met. I'm the face, I'm the sales, they're building the tech, and I'm so glad because I don't know how to, but no one's asked me yet.
Yeah, no, I think you make a good point, and it's also a sore point that no one's been around 5 years doing AI. It's too new for that to happen. So one of the things you can't do is go, hey, look at my 20-year history in AI and bring it to the table as a way to differentiate yourself. But within your industry, within real estate, you do have the experience, you have the chops, you have the ability to claim superiority, both by performance through your relationships and these things, but then you're elevating that. And this is, you're doing that by writing a book, you're doing that by speaking, you're putting yourself out there in what we would call position yourself as an expert in the industry. And so to that extent, you are standing out within the real estate industry, where you can then point to your background and knowledge and contacts and everything that goes there. And I think this is important because if somebody came to me who was a coder who says, hey, I've been working on AI for 6-7 years, my next question would be, well, where's your business partner? Because I want to talk to the person who's going to do the marketing, the person who knows the industry, who knows the application for this. And I looked at a lot of other technologies out there. I've seen several applications. I'm working with knowledge avatars on CAP, which is the avatar on my website, over the last 3 years, going back beyond that 2-year mark. And a lot of the times what you're seeing is people who may understand AI, know it from a technical standpoint, but we're not crossing over to where the rubber meets the road, where the customer gets the benefit of using AI. And this is an area that I think is going to be important for anyone who has an AI business, because of everybody being in the market, everyone bringing new products and services to the market, and AI being so new that no one, whether investor or customer, has a good handle on it. You're going to see a small percentage of the marketplace who is actually using this and might even be elevating themselves to power users. And so everybody else, you're kind of talking to someone for the first time saying, have you used AI? Do you know what AI is? I continue to have conversations with people who think an AI is a sentient being sitting, behind the wall in some building somewhere in New York City. And I keep trying to explain that's not the case. So it seems that it's necessary today, if you're going to pitch this as a product, which is a first step, to be able to show a benefit. So how do you go about getting a potential customer to understand how this can help them, and how do you quantify or qualify that improvement over whatever it is they were doing before?
That is a very big challenge, quite frankly. One of the exercises I ran to find new potential customers was leveraging AI, and getting AI and ChatGPT to know my company, and working with the reasoning models to try to find new use cases. And what I'm trying to find are people who need me more than we need them. We're trying to find companies that might be able to apply this. So I've provided ChatGPT with some of the use cases I see. Corporate training, personalized response to lead generation, international translation of company messaging for a rapidly growing company. Like, we have real estate companies right now that are based in the cloud that are adding, 3 or 4 countries a quarter, but they don't know how to translate their, all their messaging to Greece, to France, to Germany, and we can. So I say, well, I know, based off of my limited experience in the world, I know a couple of use cases, but then I go to ChatGPT. I say, based off what you know about my company, what other use cases can you find there? When I'm talking to somebody that I actually know, I do try to, follow that sales rule that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, and just ask them questions about how do you see yourself using this? How do you see that? What goals are you trying to push forward with this? With our AI generative voice, I thought for sure somebody was going to come to me and say, hey, we need a new revenue pillar. Turns out they weren't interested in the pricing model at all. They wanted to double their customer base, and they thought maybe a new feature that their competitor didn't have would double their customer base. They weren't worried about the margin on our product. That conversation blew me away, because the numbers on the margins were enormous. But I don't know their numbers and what enormous means to them. It was enormous to a small startup like us. So, really getting in and asking the potential investor, the potential client, what do you need out of this? Where do you see this being applied? Will give you different answers than I ever thought.
Yeah, well, I think this is, again, one of the challenges of new technology that's common, no matter whether we're talking about the internet or the first personal computer, because I was there when that happened, just to date myself a little bit.
To date myself.
The problem is that your customer doesn't know, hasn't applied it to their own situation, because they haven't been there yet. This is like looking through the glass at the candy store, wondering what the candy tastes like, but you haven't tasted it. So you're having to get them to fill their mind with a little bit of imagination as to how good this will work. And because of that, as you said, when you ask them the question, how would you use this, or how do you see you would benefit from this, you're getting a bunch of answers that are not necessarily what you might expect. It isn't, we want to be more efficient. It's, I want to look cooler than the next guy down the street. What I found with using CAP as an avatar is, by putting it on my website, people can ask me all the questions they commonly ask me, but they can ask CAP for this same information. And what it does is it saves me from having to make the same introductory type of educational, this is what raising capital is about. This is, these questions can be answered, which takes that off my desk, which frees up my time. And right now, this is the biggest benefit to me. I don't know that anybody thinks I'm cooler than the consultant down the block because I have an AI system. Maybe they do, but you have to ask. And as people try this, we're probably going to find more and more answers to your question, which starts spreading out. And then the question is, how do you know who's going to benefit the most? Who would be the customer who's the lowest hanging fruit here, so to speak? The one who's going to make a snap decision to buy what you're offering because they actually have needed it. They just didn't know there was a solution waiting to happen.
And that is the $64 million question, because the technology is so new. We're still trying to figure out who actually needs it and who needs it more, and how does this solve a problem that they have because they've never had the solution before. But in a year, we will have 5 or 10 competitors. So we have a real race to be first to market with this solution, and we need to actually we need to identify the problem people don't know they have, so our solution can be applied.
Right. So just for clarity for the audience, Rick is not trying to raise $64 million today. That may be tomorrow. But this is one of the hard things, is getting a new technology in and then figuring out who benefits, figuring out how to measure that benefit, how then to communicate that to the person who hasn't done it before. Do you do that through a free demo, a premium 60-day intro before we start charging you fees? There's all kinds of things like that. And today there's a lot of software out there, and I'm trying it that's AI CRM or AI project management or AI something else. And they go, hey, we'll give you 60 days of free use. And I'm like, well, how much effort do I have to put in to test drive this thing? This is not like going down to the car dealership where I can get behind the wheel, drive around the block 4 times, and I've done my test drive. I have to input data. I have to learn how to use it. And I have to make a huge investment of my time before I may decide that this isn't really worth it, or this software has got so many bugs in it that I don't want to be the bug tester for the next 2 years for this particular platform. So what are you finding as the easiest way for you to communicate to a particular customer what the benefits are?
I'm still working on that, quite frankly, but because we're pre-minimum viable product. And so a lot of companies right now are saying, well, hey, this looks great, this looks promising, but what are your stats? Show us that it's been used. I'm like, well, it's hard to show it's been used when we're still pre-minimum viable product. We're in that sort of catch-22 position. So showing people the benefit, like we can actually, if we went guerrilla, we could do it all behind the scenes. The product actually works. We just don't have the sexy white label user interface. Then that's what we're building out. So we could go guerrilla and work really hard on this for the next month and get some use cases. And that's probably where we're going, because people are going to see, how did you move the needle for somebody else? How did you measure that success? Show us on somebody else first. We don't want to be the first. And right. So we're just caught in that perpetually, and we've got to figure out how to solve that problem.
Yeah. So all these questions to this point have been focused on the product, the innovation, and the customer acceptance, understanding, appreciation. And this sets the table then for the harder questions, which is, how do you get an investor to be interested in something that's a pre-MVP, where you may have little or no revenue, you don't have a finished product, you are trying to quantify the benefits to your customer base and who is a prospective customer within the market, while you acknowledge that you have competition, and you're talking to an investor who probably doesn't have much more understanding of AI than your customers do. Have I created a worst case scenario here, or am I wrong on that?
That's right. That's where I've been living for the past 6 months. But one of the ideas that it's funny, you can be too close to something to see the solution. And as I was sending out like 25 cold emails to potential VCs that are looking at AI last night, my business partner was texting me back at midnight saying, why aren't you sending them an avatar? Like, why aren't you sending them a virtual twin that speaks the message? And that's really, what we need to be doing to be breaking through is I can take that letter, input it into my virtual twin, and have my virtual twin video accompany our letter so they can actually see the proof in the pudding, right? They can see that, hey, this very real life thing, this very real life marketing twin that I have, my virtual twin, was actually doing my pitching for me. And it was sent out at midnight when I was not wearing a professional shirt with professional lighting and professional sound, right? But you can make a professional video at any time of day, and your virtual assistant can make virtual twins of you. So you can have someone in the Philippines at $6 an hour typing, and Rick Janson can say that, and my marketing can go out seamlessly. We just need to actually be using our own product more, which was like big light bulb moment.
Yeah, no, been there, done that. Where people go, well, what do you really know about funding? I said, I don't know. What's your situation? I've done this a lot. Where I will put myself on the spot. And I said, tell me your situation. If I can't, come up with a better idea in the next 5 minutes, then maybe you should go find somebody else to help you. It's been an interesting way to learn how to do something. It's not necessarily the best, so essentially, you've created a product that can that you've captured a bunch of imagery of yourself. You can then have it generate a pitch video for almost anything you want simply by giving it the text of what you want it to say. Is that?
Yeah. So the way it works is I can train up a 2.5 minute video. So any day that I have perfect light, perfect sound, I'm dressed well, I've shaven, everything else, I take a 2.5 minute training video of me. Then I can change my shirt and make a second training video. We talk to females that are going to want to have 3 or 5 because they want to change outfits. We talk to guys who are like, I wear a black t-shirt and a baseball hat every day. One's fine. So once you have that training video, it can be used a number of different ways. One is I can type in text and my virtual twin can say anything I type. That's one use case. So you're making social media content, or you're recognizing employee milestones, or you want to create a corporate training video. Input text, output video. The other way it can be used, though, is let's say you have 1,000 leads come in and they filled out a lead form, and there are all sorts of little variables in that lead form. Within 5 minutes, we could do it instantly, but you don't want to seem creepy. Within 5 minutes, you can take all those variables from the input form and shoot out a video back and saying, hey, Carl, little gift to your email. I created a video for you. Click on the GIF. They click on the GIF. Boom, it goes to a customized landing page which says, hey, Carl, thanks for clicking on the GIF. I made this video for you. And below the video are all the links I talk about in the video. So your video says, hi, Carl, I see you're interested in homes in Washington Park. Fantastic neighborhood. And all the variables are filled in 1,000 videos at a time with no limit on the number of variables. And then below that video on the custom landing page will be, here's a link to the home search. Here's a link to pre-qualify with my preferred lender. Here's a link to rebuild your credit. Here's links about, so all the stuff, all the calls to action are sent out automatically. So now you think, okay, I'm just using real estate as an example because that's my background. But if you get a cold email from somebody that just says, sign up for a home search, or you get a video with a GIF saying, hey, Carl, I actually am speaking to what you said to me, and here are the links to sign up for a home search. Which are you going to do? The conversion rate is going to be a lot higher.
Yeah. No, and this is, again, an example of where AI can be a massive time saver, particularly to people who are consultants like me, or to salespeople who are sharing the same information to a number of people. And rather than having to take the time personally, as I do now, I'm offering anyone who wants to set up a scheduled call, 15 minutes with me to talk through their problem, to bring it, my advice, my knowledge down to a pinpoint on whoever I'm talking to. But a lot of times the information people are looking for is more generic. It's not they're unique to them or to something else. They may say, well, everybody's telling me I should fund using a safe note. Which I'm not a fan of, but nonetheless, they want to know about it. So they can go to my avatar and they can ask the question, what's a safe note? And they get a pretty good description of it that gives them a better understanding of what they're looking at. So what you're doing is you're saying, hey, I had an open house. I had 100 people come through on the weekend. I could pick up the phone and call each of them personally and talk to them, and then they'll ask me the questions. And then if they ask me about Wash Park as opposed to Capitol Hill or some other neighborhood, then I have to have the facts on that neighborhood to give to them. And your system allows you to match what this person's looking for. I get it this way: this person's looking for with this set of information. And the result of that is you just saved yourself an immense amount of time. And
we do also have a conversational version. It's just we have to release these in stages. Our conversational, where you could video to video. Like I can just call, I can see your, Rick's virtual twin answering questions live. The technology on that, as good as it is, and it's at best in class, still doesn't match up to what the consumer necessarily wants, right? They expect it to be perfect, and it's not going to be perfect until 2025, 2026, when GPUs, all the speed catches up on the back end. So our virtual twin we can send out on a customized landing page is darn near perfect, and it's the worst it's ever going to be. So we're comfortable moving to market with that right now, but we do have coaches who, like you, are saying, well, if I could duplicate myself, I could talk to 100 brand new real estate agents, I could talk to 100 brand new business developers, I could talk to 100 brand new entrepreneurs. Why don't I just avatar myself, twin myself, and answer those questions? So we do have people that are looking to invest in us because they see where it can go. But I think right now, when we're trying to get ROI for people, it's really in that, okay, how do we convert more sales and make you more money? But I know you've told me before on one of our 15-minute calls, which I highly recommend people getting, is that making more money and saving money are not necessarily drivers for why people get stuff.
Yes, this is one of the things I've learned in raising funding is that there are a number of different motivations. It's where the motivated money comes from. And when you talk to a customer, and in this case, this is a very important point for everybody in the audience. When you're pitching your business for funding, it's the same as pitching a product for a sale. You have to give the person information about something they want to know about, and they have to care about it enough that they're willing to part with their money. If they're going to buy a house for a few $100,000, they're going to take the time to study it, gather information, and they're going to figure out who they're going to work with as far as agents, all these kinds of things. When they go to invest, it's the same thing. Actually, I've seen people spend way more time in selecting a house and buying a house than they do in picking investments, which is not necessarily a good thing, but it's just happens to be the way it works. And so as you're pitching your business, you also want to go to the low-hanging fruit. You don't want to try to pitch to someone who's never going to invest. You don't even want to pitch to someone who's just interested, because in both cases, you don't get any money back from them, and it's a waste of your time and energy. Now, they may give you a lead to someone else who might invest. So as Rick was indicating earlier, is there somebody else I should talk to? Or, you're asking for that soft referral across to someone else, but even that takes time because you don't know you're getting a qualified lead. You might go through a whole string of, oh, let me tell you about my friends and so forth. No, they're not interested. They give you another name, and you're chasing the rabbit all the way across the field without ever catching it. So the trick here then is, how do you find that one person out of thousands, out of tens of thousands, out of 7 billion people on the planet, who is what I call a funding soulmate? This is a person that theoretically exists, who not only needs your product, wants your product, sees they benefit from whatever it is you're selling, but same for the business, that they actually need you so badly that they have to give you money to solve their own problem. You become a solution to fulfillment of their mission, to whatever's on their desk, whatever is not happening. So as you go through this, you have to know how they can care. How would they quantify? How would they explain to themselves what's going on? And this is one of the common problems that I see with a lot of entrepreneurs seeking funding, is they'll talk about themselves for 99% of the time, and they're not talking about the needs of the person across the table, the one who they want to take some action. So this person feels left out of the conversation. The investor is going like, yeah, I'm here, but I'm not quite sure why I'm here, because all they're talking about is themselves. Where do we change this paradigm and we start talking about me, the investor? So investors fall into several different groups based upon what they're doing, what they're trying to accomplish, and how much they know about investing and so on. And saving money to an investor is not really, that's not even on their table. That's a customer question. But if they're saying, I want to invest in a product that's going to save a lot of people a lot of money, that's still not as exciting as a new product that makes people new money, more sales, expands their reach, and so forth. We are wired to go up. We are not wired to basically defend the border, so to speak. I guess that may translate over into some political issues we won't talk about today. But it's getting into the head of the person and trying to figure out who is that ultimate soulmate, funding soulmate, who feels a need, compelled today to invest in the company. Now, Rick's been talking about the benefits and attributes of his product, which are kind of cool because you can do so many new and cool things there. But who would invest in that today? Well, the first person that everybody knee-jerk thinks about to a lot of entrepreneurs is, I'll go to the bank. I'll just borrow money. And truthfully today, banks are regulated now to a zero risk setting. They're not making any loans on anything that has risk associated with it. And I think Rick described them as pre-revenue, pre-MVP, and pre a couple other things, which all are going to get them out of the bank in a hurry. Well, if you go talk to an investor candidate who says, hey, I want to make a lot of money, I want a high rate of return. This would be an angel investor, private equity firm who's managing other people's money, maybe even a family office, which are, again, common sources of funding for the right kind of business. And Rick says, I'm pre-revenue, pre-MVP. And their response, like the customers he mentioned earlier, are going to go, why don't you come back in 6 months to a year when you have 100 customers, you've got proven product, you're in the market and so forth, and I'll talk to you then. And part of it is because they don't want the risk either. They also have a difficult time evaluating where you're going to be 6-12 months down the road. They may not be possible to do that. So who would then, as I go through working with businesses like Rick, I ask myself, who needs Rick today? This may be more of a strategic investment rather than a return on investment, where the benefits to the investor are outside of the investment. So Rick and I have talked, and he's shared that he's talked to a couple major real estate companies who have a need to boost their revenue. They have a need to make all of their agents within their portfolio, which are in the hundreds of agents, to make them more efficient, meaning use their time better, but also boost their close rate, boost their sales volume, and all these kinds of things. And some of these real estate companies are fat and happy. They're making tons of money. They don't need Rick. They might like Rick, they might buy Rick's product, but they don't have a compelling reason to invest in Rick because they don't have a need. So then the question is, well, who has that need? We start drilling down and asking the question, well, who's got their back against the wall? Who's maybe at threat of their business failing? Maybe who's not going to get a promotion to senior VP this year? Maybe it's not real estate. Maybe it's in multi-level marketing, or it's in some other type of business that is completely dependent upon a sales group performing at optimum. Maybe somewhere in there, we're going to find someone who needs Rick so badly that they're willing to say, well, Rick, how long would it take you to get a demo into my office? Can I be the prototype or pilot project for you? Maybe we combine a little bit of product purchase with a little bit of investment in your company to start reframing this not so much as a classical investment where we step back after investing and wait for money to pour in the door, but we're actually applying the technology to an issue that is front and center. It's a big pain point for whoever we're talking to. So with that kind of description, Rick, where does that take your mind in terms of looking for an investor who is willing to go at risk with a pre-revenue, pre-MVP in the middle of a marketplace where everybody's telling them they can do better?
Well, one of the places that we've had a little bit of traction, which is a little bit different from where you were going, was meeting companies that have been trying to do what we did. Meeting companies that have been trying to do what we've already done and they can't get there. So we found companies that are already trying to create an avatar and they can't. They see the need, they see a use case already, and then when they see how far ahead of them we are, they're like, well, we'll just scuttle our project and just go with you, because while there might be a marginal cost, we're going to get to market 3 to 6 months faster than if we were on our own. And we know on our own, we're not going to necessarily get there. We have other priorities. If you can give us this and take this off our plate, that frees us up to do other things. And that's where we've actually had some traction. Is just with people who already see a need in their own company, but they have limited bandwidth. They have limited developers. They don't know how. And there's $25 million behind the technology that we're white labeling. So they're like, well, we don't have $25 million in 2 or 3 years to catch up to you. So why don't we just roll in with you and jump to the front of the line?
Yeah, and this is an important observation to make, is that, again, it's so common for an entrepreneur who needs money to look at themselves and say, give me money, and frame it as me getting the money for me to benefit me. And if there's a possibility of teaming with another company, which could be a customer, where you do a pilot project or something that demonstrates your technology at scale quickly so that you have a show and tell for someone else. But it could also be a competitor. It could be someone who's doing other things in AI, who's already raised $1 gazillion from investors who didn't know better. They're going, yeah, we've been working on this thing, Rick, and we can't figure it out. We ultimately know we could, beat this to death and get it to a point of working, but why? So if you can team with someone, in this case, Rick is solving a problem that has been already identified and quantified both in time and money by someone else. Now he is positioning himself to solve that problem in providing them with an avatar that works, that is more efficient, that will get them where they want to go. And in this case, Rick has raised one more issue in the AI industry that we need to talk about, which is the AI of tomorrow, or actually this afternoon, is going to be better than the AI of this morning. I have not seen an industry move at this pace, the speed that we're seeing in AI, where every 2-3 months there's a major announcement from ChatGPT or one of their competitors or one of their white label versions, where they've added a brand new feature. Where this week, I think it was, ChatGPT was allowing you to do your own video. You're like, okay, this pace of change is awesome and scary and difficult to keep up with. So when Rick is doing a conference here in April, and it's the 28th and 29th of April, is that the right date? Did I get that correct?
Yeah, the Mile High AI conference, milehighai.co.
Yes, and so we talked to some people about doing conferences, and they're telling us, well, usually if you're going to do a new conference, you should allow 12 months of runway in advance. before you do this, because there's a lot of organization coordination and getting everybody lined up, ready to go. But in the AI world, you can't use the old time frames, because in 6 months from now, AI might change twice. it, it might go from here to here. And so rather than waiting for it to go 4 times, or if it's geometric growth, I guess that would be 8 times of technological change, let's go ahead and get the conference done as soon as possible. But AI is changing a lot, and this is of great concern to investors who are going, well, what if I put all my money into a product that looks good, the company's good, and so forth, and next week somebody announces their own technology that just leapfrogged over this technology and makes this technology obsolete? It's a very serious concern, and it should be for investors. But one of the things I think that Rick, that you're looking at correctly is you're looking to team or partner with people in the AI industry or using AI in order to move yourself faster. This is where I see a lot of solo entrepreneurs who want to do it by themselves, for themselves, with themselves, and without anybody else. I think they're going to get left behind. They're going to be pedaling down the road on a bicycle and get passed by a Ferrari at 180 miles an hour. Because the time to raise capital, back to something that requires a runway, money doesn't show up overnight. You have to have a relationship. The person has to have money, and they have to be motivated enough to give the money to you instead of to the next person looking for money down the street. If you cannot pinpoint very quickly and communicate accurately why you have this advantage, however it happens to exist, they're going to keep on looking because they can't wait. They can't go through the usual due diligence process. They don't have that kind of time. They're feeling a sense of urgency to do something today, and it'll be interesting to see how that works. Well, Don is signing off. Thanks for a high-value conversation, because Don has a show on right after this one at 9 o'clock Mountain Time, 11 o'clock Eastern. And so thanks, Don, for being with us this morning. Appreciate your being in the audience. These are the kinds of things that, again, as we're talking about raising funding, that just like any other funding cycle, we have to find those people who understand enough, they care enough, they trust what they're looking at, which is hard to do with sudden relationships. This is not something that happens instantaneously. And so the business has to be able to create that sense of credibility and advantage, and also fill the need or meet the pain point, and do this in a very concise presentation to one, get their attention, to get them to take a deep look, and then to convert them. So in some ways, the sense of urgency will compel them to move faster, where if they're investing in real estate, they might move slower today. But I think these are all things that need to be looked at. And AI is, by my perspective, it's a new technology, but it's like every other major technology. It just makes everything harder to raise funding because of the timing and lack of understanding and the noise. The noise is the thing that I think is hardest.
We are trying to raise money in the midst of a big storm, right? And you look at a lot of the tools and the little things that raised money over 2024 and even in 2023. Many of those have already been replaced by the 12 days of sharpness or whatever AI, OpenAI called it, right? They released something that just wiped out a whole category. And if you were building to something that ChatGPT was building to as well, you're going to be put out of business. If you're building research tools, you're going to be put out of business by Perplexity. If you're saying, hey, I can write a great copywriting tool, well, Claude's going to beat you to that, right? So any of these like little gimmicky ways to leverage ChatGPT and LLMs that were already on the roadmap for a big LLM, yeah, that was a bad investment because you're just gone. People don't need to spend $9 a month for a tool that's already embedded in their $20 a month ChatGPT subscription, or even in the $200 Pro version now. Which would probably be kind of funny when people watch this in 2 years and there's a $2,000 a month version. That being said, we're trying to center around some technologies that are not necessarily on the roadmap. So we think of the big billion-dollar companies.
Well, and I think that's a good example where when there is a foot race and everybody else is driving a car and you're on foot, you've got to find your lane, as it's referred to in the industry. And if you can find a niche where you bring everything that we've talked about, where you can own, in effect, that niche, because you not only have the technology, but you're also bringing all of your background in sales, in real estate, in working with large leads, which is not limited to real estate. That's an issue that goes across multiple industries. But by combining that experience with your product, you can speak from experience about your product, but you also are getting into a lane where the big guys cannot compete. That I think one of the biggest struggles with a new technology that's ubiquitous is it's everything to everybody, which means everyone has their own definition of how good or bad it is. And there's no way to create a common message that's very compelling, because if you just tell people it's better, that's not enough. As businesses get into AI or any new technology, I think it's important to find that one place where you can stand out, you can be superior, you can use whatever history you have in the industry as a starting point to distinguish yourself, and then build upon that. So Zach has a question for us. He's using acronyms. So he says, does having a POC, proof of, do you know what POC stands for? Do I have to ask that?
Proof of concept.
Proof of concept. It's like an MVP. Okay. A proof of concept or usable prototype give a larger leg up with getting those investors to take the plunge, give them something to test drive over the pitch. And the answer is absolutely yes. The more that you can bring to the table to demonstrate that it's here, it's now, it's available. Anyone who's dealt with software development, and I've been in, thanks, Zach, he's defining his acronym for me. Anyone who's been in technology development knows, and particularly software, we talk about the last 10% of software development, which is the distance between an interesting prototype and an actual useful product. Sometimes it's very difficult. It may be barriers in communication, it may be barriers in programming, it may be an interface issue. But without being at a point where you can say you can use this today, the world will divide into different groups. There will be one group that says, I'll wait, which is the larger group. And then there's the other one says, I'll take whatever you got today, and I'll work with you to help you get through the problems that you're having in getting this finished. That's a much smaller group. And it's a matter of risk tolerance. It's also a matter of benefit. The more you have something you can show, the more you can make it specific to the person you're talking to. And I mean, we're talking bespoke type of unique novelty kind of a thing. That's true on the investment side as much as on the product side. So it helps move the needle because the person making the decision can go, oh, it's close enough, or they're ready to go, or whatever it's going to be. If you go, hey, look, I've got some cool stuff coming down the road, that probably won't get the deal done.
Yeah. And to Zach's point, and in closing, because I also have a show I have to get to at 9:00, but to Zach's point, taking my co-founder's advice and using the twin of myself to pitch the twin is sort of like that light bulb moment where, like, we've been trying to go down the traditional path of raising money. which is create a great business plan, create a great pitch deck, wow people with the numbers of what's, the potential. When really what we need to do is show if they can just see the twin in action and go, oh, wow, that wasn't you. That's the end. That it doesn't matter what the numbers are. It doesn't matter what the business plan says. If they were impressed enough by the proof of concept, they can see we're close enough. And like, hey, if we're 3 weeks and $25,000 away from actually making this sexy and available to the public with the user interface, but you can already send this, then their money's less at risk and their money is more likely to flow into our, if we're solving a burning need problem.
Yeah, so Rick, I know you need to jump, as does Don, but Don wanted to leave a last comment that he thinks that using your product in combination with live streaming will probably touch more of those people who are more informed, better capable of making decisions. He's essentially pointing to people like us as being the elite who actually get it, know what we're doing, and making good decisions. And I wish that were true, but nonetheless, I think he is pointing out that a lot of times when you're looking for the right customer, right investor, they themselves, in doing due diligence on them, will have some of the attributes of yourself. And it's kind of a mirror reflection. You're saying, well, I'm doing something new, something strange, something risky. Okay, well, who do you want to talk to? Somebody who's also doing stuff new, something strange, something risky, because they can better understand where you're at and what you're talking about. The vast majority of people are less risk takers, and they need to wait till the product is proven, demonstrated, verified, certified, in 2 trade shows, whatever it takes for them to get happy and comfortable. But I think that you're on to that, Rick, where if you can demonstrate how to use the product in communicating your own message, that this will have a stronger impact than talking about it. It should seem obvious, but we don't want to make that statement because you just thought of it. So we'll stick with that for the moment.
All right, Carl, I do have to go, but thank you so much for having me on. I'll let you make closing remarks without me. But thank you so much for your wisdom, your insight, and anybody who gets an opportunity to take 15 minutes with you, super blessed, and they should take you up on that.
Okay, thanks, Rick. You take care, and I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. So that was Rick Janson. He's got 2 different products he's working with in the AI world, which are both basically tools to assist people in how they use their time, how they communicate with both existing customers and prospective customers. Rick's long experience in working in the real estate industry has made him one of the first and early power users of ChatGPT. And once he got into that, he's done all kinds of things and put on some very interesting educational programs about how to use chat to make it more custom and so forth. But once he also recognized some of the limits of chat, and that chat's driving in the interstate highway and not necessarily interested or not knowing the needs about working with sales leads and doing other things, that's when he started developing his products, which he's now bringing to market. So very interesting opportunity. And Rick is in many ways representative of companies that are trying to bring new products to market in AI. And I will say that you really have to bring your message to the user in the words and knowledge and experience and background of the user, and that also applies to the investor. An investor off the street who hasn't used ChatGPT is going to be very hard to explain to them any of the mechanics, any of the background, and quite frankly, they may not care. You have to get to the end of the story. This is where we talk about the benefits of implementing the technology or the benefits of being an investor. And being pre-revenue, pre-MVP, he's pretty much excluded the vast majority of all the investors out there who want something that's further down the road. So strategic relationships with the right people who need an avatar, who have tried to build an avatar unsuccessfully, or recognize that they're still months away when they can basically step to the front of the line and get an avatar today, way more appealing. And they already have an understanding of what he's talking about, so he doesn't have to educate them. They've already made a decision that this is a benefit to them, so they're already motivated. And he's adding one more element, which is you can get it today instead of tomorrow. I think there are a lot of lessons here to be learned from today's program in talking about funding of AI, not just for AI, but any technical innovation in the marketplace. And I hope all of you gained a lot from today's program. Also take a look at the article I published yesterday on funding AI in my instant funding newsletter on LinkedIn. And all the information from today's program and all my newsletters is trained into my AI avatar, CAP, which is available on my on my website. So if you want to use this QR code, you can quickly take a picture of that and jump to it. But you can also get there by going to dakincapital.com. And CAP is there available to answer your questions 24/7 by 365, which is my demonstration of why I believe that AI will become a common tool in everybody's toolbox. And we will continue to expand and utilize AI to do better and more work than we did before. So thank you to our audience. We'll be back next week on Tuesday, the day before Christmas. And we will have a speaker that is yet to be identified, but see my LinkedIn newsletter or my profile on LinkedIn to get more information on next week's program. Thank you today. Take care.